Hello and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the Ask Videomail for the week of May 23rd, 2011. Thank you for being on the site and for supporting the site. The Ask Videomail is your chance to get your question answered on camera in a 15-20 minute demo by me each week. So if you haven't asked a question for the Ask Videomail, you really ought to. It's the best way to take advantage of the site and get the most value out of the site. So send your questions to webmaster@kennyroy.com, and I go through all the questions. I answer the one that I think will help the most people. As you can see, things are kind of packed away right now. We're in the middle of a move and, putting everything away. It's very stressful, but it's actually good news because I'm expanding and I'm taking on more projects, and there's a lot of stuff happening at the studio, so it's going to be great. And it's very exciting, but it's always just so stressful with all the junk everywhere and stuff. So wish me luck. But the next video mail you see will probably be in a completely different setting, and that's very exciting. I'm very excited about the new place. Still working on the major announcement. These things take time. I'm hoping that by August you guys will all know what I've been planning and cooking up, but if not, don't worry about it, and we'll just roll with the punches with that. But I keep on getting emails from people who have asked, have you announced the big announcement yet? And no, definitely you will not miss it, I promise. Another thing is, if you haven't been locked out already, it's probably only a matter of time. The way that the software of the site that I use is programmed, I can't change this. If you have a dual login, it locks you out. And don't worry if that happens. It sends an email to me and notifies me that you've been locked out, and I normally can unlock you in 20 minutes to an hour, and it's not a big deal. But if you have a browser crash while you're watching a lecture, then send me an email so that I can log your session out, because a browser crash does not log out your session, and you'll probably get locked out if you have a browser crash. And then last thing, just keep on referring your friends. I see, it's strange, I see people signing up and they had no refer. So if you had found that person and referred that person, you would have got a month free for them signing up immediately. So keep on referring members and trying to get all the bonuses you can. Okay, that'll do it for announcements this week. Let's get to the question. It's a great question. Here it is. This is a great question. The main issue here that you need to just keep in mind is that with any kind of well, let me answer the first part first, which is that that for some reason keeping your keys all on the same frame is better for handing off your shot. Really, handing off your shot to somebody doesn't happen all that often. Certainly not on a major motion picture. You're probably not going to hand off your shot to somebody because there's a pipeline, and just for someone to get into your scene and find their way around, yeah, it will be easier if you have all of your keys on the same frame. But I mean, really, it doesn't happen all that often. So that's definitely not the reason why you want to have all your keys on the same frame at all. The main reason is because when you are in the blocking phase and you're still working on your blocking, you want to make sure that everything you're doing can be kind of retimed or retweaked easily. And if you don't know where your basically full body poses and your full body actions are on the timeline and in the graph editor kind of timed out, then that's going to be extremely hard. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to open up the blocking of the one of the scene files that is available in the lecture that is this month's lecture, the Intermediate Cartoony. Hopefully you've seen that and downloaded and checked it out. It was a blast to record it and a lot of fun. And I gave you all the scene files, so you have this as well. One quick note, the lecture this month with intermediate cartooning, it uses the Groggy rig. Groggy is the name. It's available on creativecrash.com. I do not redistribute the rigs that I use in these demos because most of the user agreements for these rigs specifies that you should not redistribute them, but you can just go onto creativecrash.com. It's free to download, and the rig is called Groggy. So you'll need that to open these files. So at any rate, I just wanted to show you why, again, it's super important to have all of your keys on the same frame. So I have this character basically taking 3 steps. He flies up into the air. He steps right here with his right foot. 2, 3, and then boom. Now let's say I wanted him to take only 2 steps. If I had all of my keys on different frames, I could use the trick that I've shown you guys before, which is you wall off with keys and then you delete in the middle, or you frame. I call it either walling off or framing and deleting. So you select all the controls and set a key on the timeline before and after the section you want to edit, and then delete everything in the middle. And I've shown you that in a video mail. I can't remember what month it's from, though. Sorry. But you can do that, but what you're going to end up with is essentially you're going to end up with keys that some channels have interpolation on them. If it was linear, then it has linear interpolation. If it was stepped, it doesn't have any interpolation, but it might be in a completely different pose than you're actually looking for. If it's spline, it's splined, etc. Right? So instead of the actual deliberate full body pose that you've decided on, you're going to get a little bit of interpolation. Now, professionals, when you've animated 1,000 shots in your career, you know, that's no big deal because we go back to that frame and we just say, okay, well, does this need tweaking? I'll tweak this, 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 and this, and you turn that pretty much that key back into a breakdown. But again, for gross retiming, it's super simple to do when you have all your keys on steps. So let's just say, I haven't done this, I'm just doing this live in front of you. And I can see the little recording, timer right there. It says just a little over 7 minutes. So, we're just gonna see how long it takes. And let's say the director says, okay, well, I want him to take 2 steps instead of 3. All right, so he flies up, 1, 2, and then there's the 3rd one. So what we're just going to do is we're going to check, and because I created this animation on the full body keys, there's going to be very little to do. So here we go. Okay. Now, if you watch the lecture, you'll notice that in the lecture I have I go through all of these shots, or all of these scene files. I basically progress through these scene files. However, the spline phase is always the part that is like the most difficult and really bums me out, and it is because what it does is you see all this amazing timing in your head because your brain is filling in the gaps in step mode. Then when you go to spline, invariably that timing that you had in your head is gone. All right, and then it's back in Maya's hands, and Maya's screwing it up. So there's very little you can do to avoid that except by adding a lot of full body breakdowns. So, but this scene was basically at the point where it was not too painful actually to go from this point. So let me see here. So 1 step, vroom, 2 steps like that, and I'm just gonna say that. Okay, I'm gonna say that let's just make this. Now let's have them go all the way through, actually. Let's go frame 66. Okay, and as you can see, I have all of my keys are keyed on frame 66 right here, right? So it's perfect. All right, so I'm going to remember frame 66, and then he goes up in the air. Basically, this is the real full body pose where he's in the air, which is 76. All right. Now I'm just going to delete everything between I'm going to set a key on everything actually at 76 because I just want to be absolutely sure. I'm going to do the same at 66 as well. Absolutely sure that everything is a full body key. I'm going to delete those keys, and I'm going to move these together a little bit. Now let me just let's give 4 frames in between. Okay, so now he goes boing, and then instead of stepping right here, he basically flies up in the air, right? Okay, so now all we have to do is just fix this right leg so that it doesn't go forward. And I can do most of that by actually just deleting. And I'm just going to pose it back here. Just copy this pose. So it's a good idea to work on the same key frame as well. And this downward motion is not working. Boom, 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 boom. Now we just need to make sure that the torso is basically moving nice and smoothly. These keys need to be a little bit more of a breakdown like they were before with the feet back here and that pelvis rotated and probably a little bit back like this. Okay, so there's a little bit of a hitch right there, and that's okay. Let's just set a full body key and then just remove it. And I think we'll be good. I think we'll be all right. Let's just see. You know what it actually is? I think it's the fact that right here there's a full body key. I'm just going to delete that. And let's just slide all these keys just a little bit forward. Or backwards, I should say. Now this forward another 2 frames. Oops. Looks like I did not select everything. Just a little bit of corrective posing here, and I think we're okay. There we go. Okay, cool. So, yeah, not that exciting to watch, but let me just make a few points here. So we started out with 3 running steps. If you haven't watched the lecture yet, you really ought to, because this will make a lot more sense. But we started out with 3 running steps, boom, 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 and then he lands. And now we've gotten down to 2 steps, boom, boom, bam. Okay? Now, obviously, that animation needs a lot of work. I need to fix the arcs for sure, and it looks like I'm getting still some artifacts from those full body poses that were there before. However, that took less than 5 minutes to make that retiming, and the point is that if you have a workflow that makes it so that you can really go quickly through your blocking plus phase, which is where you first spline stuff out, then in blocking, if you have everything on the exact same frame, what does that mean you can do? It means that if you get a big change, then you're not actually deleting or editing your splined out, like super broken down animation. you can actually go back to blocking, and that scene file that you saved with everything still on the same frame right before you splined it, and get the exact same results. You can get really, really good results quickly. So for all intents and purposes, my workflow is such that if I get a big change, I don't necessarily delete a lot of animation and whatever. I might actually go and start from a previous version that was taken all the way up through blocking without splining anything, and start working from there. I just might. I know a lot of people do that, but I do know a lot of people that do it the other way. So to basically answer the question, you want to keep all of your keys on the same frame. And although it is a benefit to the people who you hand your scene off to, you don't want to keep your keys on the same frame for those people. You really want to keep them on the same frame because gross retiming is super simple when you have all your keys on the same frame, especially if you work in stepped mode. Okay? Now, another thing that I wanted to just point out is that you're going to get the soupy animation when you spline this out the same way you spline anything. Meaning, this isn't a panacea for the soupy, spliny problems that you get at that phase of the animation. It's not. Nothing is, really. Really is not. This is basically a better way to make it so that you always have a restore point, let's just call it that, in your animation. Okay? And so it's not pretty, it's not beautiful yet, but it will be. I can take this animation and make it beautiful. But we just went from 3 steps to 2 in less than 10 minutes. All right? And that's pretty darn good, especially if you're working on a tight deadline and you can show them a change in less than 10 minutes, you're in good shape. Okay, so that's a really great question. I love questions like that, and I want to hear more questions. Please send your questions in if you haven't already. It's a great way to interact on the site and to get the best value for your subscription. Okay, great. So if you haven't sent one in, the email address, one more time, is webmaster@kennyroy.com. I read them all, and I make sure to answer the ones I think will help the most people. I'm really enjoying the site. I hope you are too. Please continue to refer your friends and just keep kicking butt. Okay, guys? Good luck with your animation, and as always, rock on.